What's up YouTube, this is Arlyoshi as usual. I'm Max bringing more Let's Play Asagao Academy, Normal Boots Club. Last time, John actually started getting better and he thought about our proposition from a couple episodes ago to get a new parrot to replace Jacques, or at least pretend to replace Jacques so people stop asking questions. This time, apparently, that's what we're gonna do. So, he is feeling better, which is very good. Very good. But as the rest of the week passed, I got more and more worried for John. Hey man, how's that play coming? Oh, you know, it's coming. We're having some trouble with the leads, so...
Really?
Wasn't Jacques supposed to be the lead?
Oh.
Yeah, well, it's more like the side characters. There's a lot to juggle there. I've been busy. Busy was the least of it. John was lethargic, often spacey, and struggled to pay attention in class. More than once, Shane saved him by whispering an answer when Miss Shizuka called on him. That and...
Hey.
So when should we all get together to talk about the tournament? And this time actually talk about it. The last few times we got a little too distracted. Josh challenged me to a marionette party match. I couldn't let my throne be claimed.
Yeah, whatever.
You don't even hold the throne anymore. Oh. Anyways, when works for everyone? We should do it this weekend.
Uh-huh.
I can do it then.
Copacetic.
Copacetic? Sounds good to me. I've got notes from last time. Just you wait. The asset passed around the table until it reached John. He glanced at me, then looked away. I can't really this weekend. I've got lots of stuff for the play.
Really?
Really? I mean, if you can't, you can't, but we should meet sometime soon. The tournament's not far away. Yeah, neither is the play. Right, they're on the same weekend, aren't they? It's rough. Take your time then, I guess. We'll figure something out. I'll come over on Friday and we can brainstorm, PBG. Sound good? Yeah, thanks, dude. I felt so bad for John, but it was okay. We would get a new Jacques. Once that was over, we'd hopefully have time to practice and John would start feeling better and getting his work done. It was just a matter of time. Is something bad about to happen? As soon as class was over on Friday, I left Mai behind, sprinting back to the dorm so fast I didn't even have time to check with Jean about finalizing the plan. I was too excited. I changed into my favorite sweater and green shirt combo, releasing a contented sigh as the soft material encompassed my body. I rubbed my hands across my sweater, humming contentedly. The Asagao uniforms were nice, but they could be stiff and starched. The fact that I only really had two meant that I had to wear them longer than I liked. It was always an unadulterated joy to put on other clothes. John and I were going into the city to find a new Jacques, and I was ready. In all the time I was at Asagao, I had yet to visit the city nearby. I hadn't even been to a big city since I was a kid. With slight nerves buzzing in my mind, I sat down and waited. Mine was at volleyball practice, so I had nobody to talk to, but I figured John wouldn't take long. I had literally just seen him in class. Won't be much longer. He was probably on the staircase now. Where the hell was he? Was I supposed to meet him somewhere? I didn't have his number, so I couldn't call him. I could go to his dorm and risk missing him on the way, or... Finally, there was a knock at my door. I bounded forward happily, relief flooding through me. Finally, John... PBG stood in front of me, avoiding my eyes. PBG, what brings you here? John wants you to meet him at the school gates. Okay. Is there a reason he couldn't come get me himself? There is, but... Look, Hana, I don't know what you and John are up to, but please keep him safe. You know how he can be. Okay? Of course I will. I'm a little confused. Don't worry, just keep an open mind. PBG smiled at me, resting a hand on my shoulder. I straightened under his sudden touch. For some reason, it was comforting, oddly familiar. He nodded at me. It seemed like there was something more he wanted to say or express, but the look on his face told me it wasn't going to do it. With a shrug, he left. I locked my door and followed him outside. Students dawdled here and there on the grounds, much more of them than there usually were. Because it was a Friday, nobody felt the usual pressure to go back and finish their homework. No, it was safe to say Asagao was a nation of procrastinators, all needing the fear of God put into them before they sat down for a single assignment. Preach it! I hurried to the school gate, praying John hadn't waited long. But when I got there, he was nowhere to be found. There was some weird guy, though, and he looked kind of like a porn star. He glanced up as I approached, and I switched directions to wait on the other side of the gate. Where was John? If only he would hurry. Oh my god. He was staring at me. Why was he staring at me? I turned around, peering back into campus. Nobody came. I was starting to get a little scared. A man took a step towards me, then another, and another. I quailed, hands tightly gripping my purse. Was he gonna rob me? Try to kidnap me? I stared straight ahead. No eye contact. Eye contact will only make it worse. Not even looking.
Anna.
What is happening? I'm getting Joshua Lena flashbacks here. Hana. I jumped. How do you know my name? The man reached out to touch me and I shrieked. And flung my purse into his head.
Ah!
Ah! What the hell, Hana? Wait, that voice sounded familiar.
John.
John? Is that you? John rushed a hand over my mouth. Shh! It's Malkovich to you. I'm your uncle from Russia. Got it? Why are you pretending to be my uncle? Why are you from Russia? I'm not. John stopped as a small group of students passed, eyeing us warily. Then he leaned closer to me. I stared at the edge of his mustache. Was it glued on? I'm not about to have people see me buying a new bird. I betrayed Jacques enough as it is. I couldn't take it if everybody knew. A number of problems with almost every single assumption that John made during this decision presented themselves to me, but PBG told me to be open-minded. In that case, we should get away from Asagao as soon as possible. John beamed, the edges of his inflated coiffure trembling with cheer. Coiffure? I don't know. Thanks, Hana. I knew you would understand. So I guess I have to do a Russian John voice? Okay. Still, it didn't make traveling in public with him any easier. We had to take a compartment with a granny sitting inside, and she spent the entire trip alternating between glares and judgmental sighs. I was pretty certain she thought John was my pimp. Oh, my knees. Beautiful country, eh? Oh, the things I put up with for John. Thankfully, it wasn't much longer until we reached the city. John and I disembarked from the train, watching a smattering of familiar Asagao faces disappear into the subway station. In the city, John was getting stared at nearly as much as he was in the countryside. Eccentric people were the norm, it seemed. We left the subway and emerged onto a busy street, small shops lining the road. Salarymen, middle-aged mothers, old men with dogs, children rollerblading down the road. Everybody strolled past us, caught up in their own business and paying us absolutely no mind. I took a deep breath and smiled. The disgusting gasoline-tinted air, the small scraps of paper littering the ground, the homeless man on the corner of the street with a cardboard sign saying we were all going to hell. I love the city. Me too. I can't imagine why a person would live anywhere else. The bigger the better, in my opinion. There's just always so much going on. I nodded and Jan glanced quickly around him. So, let's see if we find this pet shop and get the ball rolling. Already?
Yeah!
Yeah, get in, get out. That's how Malkovich does things. But we just got here, and it's my first time to a city in years. We don't even know where the pet shop is. It'll be so much fun to explore, and no one's even gonna know that's you. I latched onto John's sleeve, bouncing up and down like a small child. Please, John, for me. I gave him my best attempt at puppy eyes, reminding myself to practice in the mirror later on. It was a necessary weapon, one worthy of practice.
Oh,
Do we have to? Yes. John groaned. Ah, yes. Boyfriends and girlfriends in a nutshell. I wouldn't know. Fine, but only until we find the pet shop, got it? As soon as we see it, we're getting what we came for and going home. Geez, you're like a mobster. John wiggled his mustache and nodded. Away! John and I had a great time wandering the city. We stopped off and got smoothies to drink. We looked at statues and took turns mimicking their poses in front of them. At one point, a guy catcalled me from his car, and John went full-on Malkovich on him, screaming at him in that peculiar accent. Eh? You going for Malkovich's niece? Malkovich's niece? Do you know what Malkovich had to do to enter this country? You have no prospect! No! John ran in the car, and the man and his friend sped away with tears in their eyes. My hero. Ah, Malkovich. It is what Malkovich does. The hours passed away without me even noticing.
John.
Oh, Malkovich, look at that. We were just passing by a jewelry store when something in the shop window caught my eye, and I stopped in my tracks. Pressing my nose to the glass, I grinned. It was a string of pearls, an amethyst forming the meeting point between the two strands. Is that something you're interested in? He looked at me critically, then shook his head. I can't say it suits you. Correct, my shoulders hunched. I took a deep, long breath. It was okay. He didn't mean it like that. It came out much worse than he intended, I was sure of it. Almost. Well, I think it would look good on me. My mother had a necklace just like that. My dad bought it for her as an anniversary present the year she gave birth to me, and she wore it all over the place until... I stopped, not wanting to spoil the mood, but John raised an eyebrow. Until what? Never mind. I glanced again at the necklace, this time noticing the price tag next to it. A rock fell to the pit of my stomach. Well, it wasn't meant to be. I moved on from the store, and after a second, John followed me.
Hey.
So what was it? Don't worry about it. It's not important. John leaped in front of me, arms outstretched.
Hana.
Hana? I might not look like it, but I'm a person who values honesty. He thumped his porno chest, and I frowned. You gotta be blunt with me, or else I'm not gonna get it. And if I want to know something, I don't see why you should hide it. Not if we're truly friends. It's sad, so I don't want to talk about it. If I was honest, that was only part of the reason. Yes, it was sad. Yes, it made people feel bad when I brought it up. But even more than that, I didn't want people to pity me. I got tired of seeing the looks on their faces when I mentioned it, the way their brows scrunched up and they cooed as if talking to a small kitten. I didn't want John to look at me that way.
Yeah!
Lay it on me, I got this. John stretched an arm against the lamppost we were passing, planting his feet solidly on the ground. It seemed we wouldn't be moving until I said it. I sighed. Fine. My mom passed away when I was 8, so I barely remember her. Happy? He looked surprised for a brief second, and I glanced away. Didn't this get brought up when you were at the festival? Did I miss something? I swear this was brought up. I knew what would come next, and I didn't want to see it. Instead, I strode on past him. In a second, he was right back next to me, pumping his arm in his characteristic show-tune manner. For a moment, it seemed like he forgot he was Malkovich. Yes, actually, I'm quite happy. That wasn't too bad, was it? The words flowed swift out of his mouth, just as they always did, almost without care. He wasn't trying to coddle me. No, it wasn't. So do you have that necklace back home, then? No, she was buried with it because it was so important to her. My dad misses her so much. John nodded sagely. I bet. I think I can kind of understand it some way. We stood at a stoplight, waiting for the light at the crosswalk to turn green. Why'd you even come to Asagao anyways?
What?
What? You're a scholarship kid, ain't you? It probably costs a lot to go here, so you must have some big reason. I bit my lip. Why was John being so nosy? I bet he wouldn't like it if I asked him these questions, and it was kind of hard to take him seriously in that getup. I scanned the street for something neat, something to distract him from the question, and gasped. Look, the pet store! The light changed to green and I sped across the street and down the next block. A bright orange sign proclaimed the shop to be Pets and Pests. Not the friendliest of names, but it would do. Come on, let's go! I grabbed the door and held it open for John, but he just stared at me. What's wrong? I don't know if I can do this anymore, Hana. He glanced down the street. This was a bad idea. Let's just go home, what do you say? I rolled my eyes and grabbed his hand, pulling him inside. Come on, you'll be fine. Wait, hold on. What's that sign in the background? Bird feeding treats, bird cages, toys, accessories, live and mostly live birds. A seedy-looking old man glanced at us as we entered the shop, but upon seeing John's getup, he turned back to the newspaper in his lap. A questionable reaction, but welcome nonetheless. I wasn't fond of employees hovering over my shoulder while shopping. I always felt pressured to buy something. We passed cages filled with puppies and kittens, ferrets and fish, spiders and snakes. I tried my hardest not to look at anything, partially out of fear and partially because I knew if I locked eyes with something, I'd want to take it home. No, even more than that, I would take it home. I'd smuggle it into an Asagao like illegal drugs and spend my days treating it like actual family. The birds were at the back of the shop, presumably so their high-pitched chirps wouldn't upset the store owner after a particularly late night. We glanced through the cages, seeing birds of every shape and color. For such a small shop, they sure had a lot of variety. But then I spotted it.
Hey!
John, look! Okay, give me a moment to just read the stuff in the back. Owl eat that. Owl food. Nom 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 birdseed. Some birdie, diet bird feed, trimmed down in just 56 weeks. Natural birdseed, twice the price, birds don't care. Too much, why are you, I guess, buying it? Super generic brand. The one right behind John's head, is that say like best fucking something? That bird looks exactly like Jacques. It's the spitting image of him. John frowned, eyeing it skeptically. Green chiconia. It's the right species, and it does look oddly similar. He peered closely at the bird, who was napping lazily on its branch. Oh, the colors are exactly the same. It's almost as if Jacques was based off this bird, or vice versa.
What?
Pardon? It's a conspiracy! Anyways, let's get him. I headed towards the store owner, but John grabbed my arm. What's wrong? John glanced away. The wheels were churning in his mind. John wasn't the hardest person to read. I don't have a cage, or food, so I shouldn't do this. I don't know about real birds, I only know about Jacques. I should study more, or something. You definitely have a cage. We helped make that birdhouse together, remember? I guess we did. Besides, I don't believe you studied a day in your life. Rude. I happen to be a very intelligent and culturally sound individual. Just the other day, I went to the symphony to hear Firebird. Okay, Mr. Culture. Stop making excuses and let's go. I approached the store owner, who glared at me. I could read his thoughts in his eyes. Stupid kid. This was why I hated talking to employees at stores. Excuse me, can we please have that green conure? He flicked his tongue around his mouth. I could see the little lump probing his cheeks. What's it to ya?
What?
What? What's that bird to ya? A pet? The man stabbed his newspaper back up, not even looking at me anymore. What the hell? Let me try. John approached the counter and slammed his hand down on it. The man peered around his newspaper, then jumped. Why, hello there. Why, hello, sir. Your benevolence. How might I serve you? Well, I need that green birdie for my little lady friend, and it seems you aren't interested in giving it to her. The man twisted his hands. He glanced from me to John. I'm very sorry, sir. I simply thought, but then the bird is rightly yours. Pardon me. Rightly yours? What is he talking about? Shh, just let it happen. He boxed up the bird, then included a handful of beginner's bird items at no extra charge. He bowed us out of the shop. In no time, we were back on the street and on our way back. What the hell? I still don't get what just happened. The Malkoviches are a long, dignified line. They're practically celebrities back in their homeland. Wait, so Malkovich is a real guy? You don't need to worry about it. Let's get home. John patted me on the head, then started across the street. The whole affair took much longer than I anticipated, and by the time we were on our way home, I was exhausted. The bird sat quietly in its box on John's lap, John peering nervously through the air slits. You think this is really gonna work? What? Try as I might to stop it, I yawned. My vision was hazy, and my head kept tipping towards John's shoulder. John smiled at me, his question remaining unanswered. After some time, he rolled his eyes and patted the side of my head. I snapped awake. What? If you're gonna sleep on me, just do it. It's bothering me that you haven't made up your mind. I smiled, then scooted closer to John and laid my head on his shoulder. He was so warm. I almost didn't mind that he was still in that Malkovich getup. Almost. As the train pulled into Higginbana, John shifted nervously. I pulled my head off his shoulder. Yeah? What's going on? We're getting close to Asagao when I just realized something. PBG was supposed to be meeting up with Gerard tonight in our room. What if he's still there? I'm not going to be able to take this Jacques in like this. They'll know something's up. Oh, that's no problem. We can keep him in my dorm room. Mine's got a game tonight in another town, and they were supposed to go on late. Really? Are you sure, though? I know you're afraid of birds. I mean, it's only until Gerard leaves, right? What could be the harm in that? The trip across campus was perilous. It took all our collective ninja skills not to be caught by teachers or other students. Utilizing bushes, postal boxes, trees, and the occasional holding a soccer ball you found on the ground in front of your face trick, we made it to Primrose House. Just before we entered, I turned to him. Can't you at least take off that disguise now? I think it'll cause even more suspicion the way you are.
No.
No, it won't. Nobody can tell it's me. Yeah, but I wasn't talking about suspicion for you. With a sigh, I pulled open the door. Malkovich's mind was made up. There was nothing I could do. We climbed the stairs with halting steps. I peered around every corner to ensure nobody was around. New Jacques was surprisingly well behaved considering the amount of travel and jumping to and fro we were putting him through. Either he was still asleep or he was so chill as to be confused with the dead. I winced as the thought occurred to me. Too soon, Hana. Too soon. We climbed to the third floor and sprinted to my door. I took out my keys as fast as I could, trying to unlock the door. Hana! What? Kakuzu was settling next to me, having made almost no sound in our approach. As I fit the key into the lock and turned it, Kakuzu made a high-pitched whine. Mai texted me. She told me to tell you to save her a pork bun from dinner. I now see that this is no longer possible. I nodded slowly. Kakuzu stared at me, evidently expecting some kind of response. Thank you? She nodded, eyes flashing. Message delivered. Goodbye, robot girl! With that, Kakuzu just disappeared into her own room. Who was that girl?
Well,
Let's just say Jacques isn't the only robot in town. Damn, Hana, that's cold. You can't just go calling people robots. Oh, never mind. I shoved the door open and ushered John inside. John set the box and bag of products down with a sigh. It's not heavy, but damn was it uncomfortable. Thanks for carrying everything. Hey, it's my stuff. John shrugged, rolling his shoulders. I eyed the box warily. New Jacques still hadn't made a peep. Was he really okay? I'm gonna head back and check whether Gerard's around. I'll come back as soon as the coast is clear. John followed my eyes to the box. Are you sure you'll be okay?
yeah.
Of course. I can handle a little old bird, and you'll be back before I even know it. Okay, if you're sure. John was clearly uncomfortable with this, but I felt I could handle myself. I shooed him out the door. Just before it closed, I stuck my head into the hallway. And please change your clothes! John gave me a thumbs up. Satisfied, I went back into my room. It was still and silent, as if it were totally alone. My uniform was still laying out on my bed, my homework spread across my desk. Everything was normal. Except that there was another living being in the room with me. The silence was really starting to throw me off. I tried to peer through one of the box's breathing holes, but I couldn't see anything. Was it even in there? If all birds were this calm, then maybe I was wrong to be so afraid of them all these years. It wasn't like I had a rational reason for hating them. They were just so small and fast and pointy. So much potential for destruction in one tiny flying package. I changed into my pajamas, then sat on the bed and looked around my room. Well, now what? I should probably practice in order to get my tournament points up. Because I feel like Check Out Mr. Birdie, all I would do is I lift it up, I look at him, and might cause some problems if he gets out and flies around. So I'm just gonna practice. Yeah, I should practice. There were only a few weeks left until the tournament after all, and I didn't want to embarrass normal boots. I pulled out my phone and turned it on. Instantly, several texts came from Mai's number, all begging me to save her a pork bun. Sorry, Mai. I switched out of the texting app and started up the game. After a brief loading screen, the chirpy music began to play. I challenged someone to a multiplayer match and waited for the timer to count down. That guy was hard. I'm immature. The bird started screaming, bouncing inside the box's walls and moving it to and fro across my desk. Pencils of books clattered to the floor. The box flew across my desk as if possessed. It drew close to the edge of the desk, almost falling off.
No!
No! It was going to fall off. Not knowing what to do, I reached over and pulled open the lid. The bird flew out of the box and around the room, complete blur. It rammed into a wall, knocking down my shelf, and then into my bed, then into a desk. Objects fell across the room as if we were having an earthquake. Then talons flew at my face. I covered my face with my arms, and then it was on me, beating against my skin and tearing through my hair. Screaming, I crawled to the door, trying to shake the bird out of my hair. A heavy thud came from my door, and then I heard him. Hana, what's going on? John! I reached up and pulled the door open. John ran into the room, eyes wide. Oh no. He glanced at me on the floor, then grit his teeth. I didn't see how he did it. I know it took some skill and effort, judging by the grunts and the way he hopped around the room. Eventually, after several minutes, the clattering stopped. The screeching became muffled. When I opened my eyes, the bird was back in the box, and the room was a mess. Papers littered the floor. Books, action figures, pencils, clothes. Everything was flung here and there across the room, and there were fluffs of cotton lining the corners. It took me a few seconds to realize where the cotton came from. When I did, I froze. John turned to me, panting. Why the hell did you let it out of its box? Mr. Bunny. Mr. Bunny lay on the floor, ripped to absolute shreds. If I hadn't had him for so long, I never would have been able to guess the tattered pile of cloth was him. The only recognizable part that remained was a patch containing a single button eye. I picked it up, hands trembling. Tears slid down my face. I bit the inside of my cheek, taking deep breaths, trying very hard to stop crying. It was my own fault, after all, and it was only a bunny. It was only a bunny. It was only... You said that well enough. I sobbed into the tattered piece of cloth. John's eyes widened, and he flailed uncomfortably. Stop crying! Stop it! Stop that! Please! Sean, do you mind leaving me alone for a bit?
No.
No, but I should help you clean up. This is partially my fault, after all. No, I would prefer... I swallowed heavily, trying to stop my voice from wobbling. Please go. John hesitated a few moments, his hands reaching toward me. Then he nodded. It'll be good to get this thing out of here. He grabbed the box and the rest of the supplies, shuffling carefully to the door. As he passed, I flinched. He hesitated, looking at me for just a moment. Then he left. With John gone, I started sobbing almost uncontrollably. My rabbit was gone. He was gone. After all this time, he was gone. I crawled into bed, holding the tattered eye to my chest. Normally, when I was this upset, I could go to Mr. Bunny for comfort. In fact, he was my only friend for the past year. Now, though, I was alone, and he was gone. And now Mai's angry, and we'll figure out what she's angry about next episode. I'm guessing if we had opened the box, there are two possibilities I can think of. The first is that all that would have happened, it just would have happened sooner, or the bird would have actually remained calm and there would have been no problems. But I think practice probably was the best solution. So, alright, well, I've been Max, and we'll see you next time for more Asagao Academy Goodbye Stuffed Rabbit Club. Whoosh! Boom, boom.